Hey guys, Nike here. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to make some videos where I take my best guesses on what the new Elite specs will be in the End of Dragons expansion. But before I do that and get into any specific professions, I want to do this as sort of like an intro video to discuss overall concepts that I think the specs might have. First, there is a lot of talk and rumors about underwater weapons becoming land weapons, particularly Warrior getting Spear. I think that they could do this one of two ways. Either underwater weapons on land isn't going to happen at all, and everyone's going to get just a normal land-based weapon, or everyone will get an underwater weapon and only underwater weapons. I think there is a small but decent chance that this actually happens because it would allow Ana to ship 3 new legendaries with the X-Pack that have real collections, like the original HOT legendaries. Also, I think that underwater weapons on land would give a lot of room for creativity and playstyle. Spear, for example, could be a ranged weapon for one spec, like Paragon in Guild Wars 1, but could be a melee weapon for another class. Lastly, each class already has 2 underwater weapons, so giving them the third one as their land weapon would make a lot of sense. This would imply that Warrior and Thief are getting Trident, for example, and I do think that that could be very cool. On the other hand, the reason why I think this won't happen is that it would take a lot of work to create new animations and new rigging for the weapons, and when a studio is under pressure to deliver content by a deadline, the way ANET is, you have to tend to believe that they will take the easier option if an easier option that is still just as satisfying exists. And additionally, I think there's no shortage of very cool and creative ideas for the already existing land weapons for each spec, and so they don't need to go all in on the underwater thing for creativity. Any playstyle that you can envision for a spec using a trident or a spear, really you could envision with one of the existing land weapons. So with that being the case, why bother with the underwater weapons unless you specifically wanted to make underwater legendaries? The second topic is roles. A lot of professions already have a healing support spec, or a power DPS spec, or a Condi DPS spec. So if you already have a support, power, and Condi spec, what role is left for them to develop? My guess is that ANET is going to take a mix of approaches. It seems likely to me that before the X-Pack, there will be a large balance patch that will probably nerf some of the existing specs to make room for new ones. One example that jumps out to me is that right now Berserker is both the best power and the best Condi spec for Warrior. So it wouldn't be crazy to me if either the Condi aspect or the power aspect is nerfed hard enough to make room for a new End of Dragons spec to take its place. In this particular example, I would guess that it would be Power Berserker getting nerfed to make room for a new Power DPS spec, leaving Berserker as the Condi spec since Berserker got Torch. Alternatively, it's entirely possible that ANET might just double up on the specs. So long as the playstyles feel very different, the same role is acceptable. For example, Dagger Deadeye power feels very different than Power Staff Daredevil. And I think players would be generally fine with some specs getting redundant roles, so long as the playstyle felt new and compelling when they actually log in and play on it. My guess is that ANET is going to pick a mix of these two styles. Some classes will get a role redundant spec as long as they have radically different playstyles and are quite flavorful. And other classes are going to see some big nerfs that open up lanes for a new spec to move into. A possible example would be something that is currently not meta, but still at least a real build, like Condi Hollow, and the Condi aspect of Hollow being nerfed quite hard to allow for a pure Condi spec for the NG. But again, who knows? It's just complete speculation, and we'll get more into that when we get to the NG video in the series. So as I go through each profession in this series, I'm going to have all these factors in mind and offer ideas that can go sort of either way and touch on what I think are the most likely possibilities for each profession. I look forward to making this series and also using it to sort of get myself a little bit hyped for the X-Pack, and I hope it helps you guys get hyped as well. So that's basically it. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas related to what I suggested in this video, please leave them in the comments below. I look forward to hearing from you, and I do hope you guys have a great day. Thanks.